You're about to hear a story filled with humanity, a journey that touches the heart of every listener. Every story on our channel carries a message of kindness, courage, and faith in what's good. If you feel that meaning too, leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to our channel, because even a small action from you can bring a little bit of hope to someone out there who truly needs it. Thank you for being here. Now, let's begin the story. The small town of Pinegrove lay quietly between the endless pines and a still blue lake that mirrored the morning sky. It was the kind of place where time moved slowly, where the sound of a passing truck or a barking dog could echo across the whole valley. On the edge of town stood a modest wooden cabin, its porch worn smooth by years of wind and rain. There, Lucas Davis, a retired Navy SEAL, had chosen to live out his quiet days. After decades of service, of deserts, oceans, and distant battles, all he wanted now was silence and the steady company of Ranger, his German Shepherd K9 who had saved his life more times than he could count. Each morning, Lucas brewed his coffee, leaned against the porch railing, and watched the mist lift off the lake. Ranger would sit beside him, ears perked, tail occasionally thumping against the floorboards, as if reminding his master that peace was a fragile thing, something that needed to be guarded. Even here, when the sun climbed higher, they'd head into town, following the gravel road that led to Green Mart, Pinegrove's only supermarket. It was a friendly enough place, filled with chatter and the smell of baked bread. Behind the counter stood Frank Doyle, the store's owner, a man with an easy smile and the reputation of being the town's generous benefactor. Everyone liked Frank. Lucas didn't know him well, nor did he want to. He preferred to blend into the background, exchange polite nods, buy what he needed, and leave. But that morning was different. As Lucas walked through the aisles, Ranger suddenly stiffened beside him. The dog's nose twitched, tail low, body rigid. Then came the low growl, a warning. Lucas knelt down, rubbing Ranger's neck. "What is it, boy?" he asked softly. Ranger's gaze fixed on the refrigerated meat section. Lucas followed his eyes and saw nothing unusual, just neat rows of vacuum-sealed packages, shiny labels, bright lights. But there was a faint odor in the air, something most people wouldn't notice, something only a soldier or a dog trained to detect danger would recognize. The smell of decay masked by chemicals. Frank noticed their attention and laughed. "Don't worry, old friend," he said, patting the glass of the cooler. "The fridge just went out for a few hours last night. Everything's fine." Lucas nodded, but his instincts told him otherwise. As a man who had spent his life reading danger in the smallest details, the shift of a shadow, the change of a tone, he felt that same quiet tension again. Something wasn't right. When he returned home, Lucas sat on the porch, staring at the lake as the sun began to fade. Ranger lay at his feet, still uneasy, eyes watching the tree line. The air felt heavier than usual, as if the calm of Pinegrove was only the surface of something rotten beneath. Lucas whispered, "You smell it too, don't you?" Ranger gave a soft bark, almost a confirmation, and in that moment Lucas knew peace wouldn't last much longer. He didn't yet know what was coming, but his instincts and his dog were never wrong. The next few days in Pinegrove carried a strange stillness, as if the town itself was holding its breath. The newspaper headlines spoke of community festivals and fishing contests, but underneath the smiles, something invisible festered. People whispered about the rising number of stomach illnesses, though no one dared to connect the dots. Only Lucas Davis noticed the pattern. He had seen it before, in places far from home, where silence was often the first sign of corruption. And Ranger, his loyal K9, still avoided the food from Green Mart, growling whenever Lucas opened the fridge. On a Wednesday afternoon, Lucas stopped by the local clinic to check on Mrs. Turner, his elderly neighbor who had fallen sick after buying meat from Frank Doyle's store. The doctor, uneasy and overworked, muttered, "It's food poisoning, but the strain's unusual." Lucas frowned. "Unusual how?" The doctor hesitated. "It's chemical, not natural spoilage. Please, Mr. Davis, let it go. Frank helps fund this clinic." That sentence was enough. Lucas didn't say another word. He simply turned and walked out, Ranger following silently at his heel. That night, Lucas couldn't sleep. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the soft wind against the windows. He sat at the table, turning his old Navy SEAL dog tags in his hand, a reminder that the world only changes when someone decides enough is enough. Ranger watched him with steady eyes. "You ready for one more mission, boy?" Lucas whispered. The dog gave a low, affirming bark. Under the cover of darkness, Lucas and Ranger made their way toward Green Mart. The supermarket, closed for the night, was guarded only by 2 dim streetlights and a locked chain-link gate. Lucas picked the lock quietly, slipping inside the loading area. The air was heavy with the cold, sterile smell of chemicals. Ranger's nose twitched. He led Lucas to the back storage room, where several industrial freezers hummed quietly. Lucas opened one. The sight made his stomach tighten. Inside were rows of vacuum-sealed meat, neatly labeled with fresh dates. But the flesh beneath was grayish, slimy, and reeking of ammonia. He snapped photos, one after another. In another freezer he found expired dairy products, milk curdled, cheese covered in mold, all stamped with new packaging stickers dated this week. Suddenly, Ranger's growl cut through the silence. Footsteps. 2 men in black uniforms entered from the back, carrying flashlights. "Thought I heard something," one said. Lucas moved quickly, pulling Ranger behind a stack of boxes. The men's beams swept over the floor, stopping inches from his boots. Frank's orders were clear. "Everything expired goes to the clean room. He'll bleach the smell out tomorrow." They laughed, walking past. Lucas exhaled slowly, rage burning in his chest. "They're poisoning everyone," he whispered. Ranger whined softly, sensing his high master's fury. When the men left, Lucas followed the stench toward a small side room marked "Authorized Personnel Only." Inside he found large containers filled with cleaning chemicals, the same kind used to preserve old meat. He recorded everything on his phone, documenting the mixing process laid out on the wall. Just as he was leaving, headlights flashed across the storage area. Frank Doyle himself had arrived. Lucas ducked behind a shelf, watching as Frank inspected the inventory. "Perfect," Frank muttered, tapping his clipboard. "These idiots will buy anything if it's labeled organic." Lucas's fists clenched. He wanted to confront him right then, but timing was everything. He slipped out the back door before Frank could notice, Ranger following close behind. They ran through the foggy streets until the supermarket was just a distant glow. Lucas stopped near the bridge overlooking the lake, his breath forming clouds in the cold night. He opened his phone, staring at the photos. Proof of everything. But he knew evidence alone wasn't enough. In a town ruled by loyalty and silence, truth needed a voice loud enough to break the spell. As dawn broke, he called Emily Carter, a young journalist from the Pinegrove Daily. "Meet me by the lake at noon," he said. "Bring your camera. I've got something you need to see." The wind carried his words across the water, and for the first time in years, Lucas felt that same rush he used to feel before a mission. That moment when fear turns into clarity. He looked down at Ranger, who wagged his tail once, waiting for the next command. "We're not done yet," Lucas murmured. "We're just getting started." The morning light in Pinegrove felt different that day, brighter, sharper, as if it knew the truth was about to break free. Lucas Davis stood by the old bridge with Ranger at his side, waiting. When Emily Carter arrived, camera bag slung over her shoulder, determination gleaming in her eyes, Lucas handed her the phone filled with photos and recordings. "If we're going to stop him," he said quietly, "we do it in front of everyone." Emily nodded. "Then we give them a show they'll never forget." By noon, Green Mart was alive with the usual Saturday crowd. Families filled the aisles, laughter mingling with the sound of shopping carts and soft music from the overhead speakers. At the front of the store stood Frank Doyle, smiling broadly as he cut the ribbon on his new organic fresh display. A perfect illusion. Cameras from the local news crew rolled as he shook hands and posed for photos. Lucas walked in through the automatic doors, calm but focused, wearing his old military jacket. Ranger followed, his eyes scanning the room like a soldier assessing a battlefield. Emily moved discreetly through the crowd, setting up her small camera near the produce section. Lucas approached the refrigerated meat counter, the same one from days ago. He reached for a package, turned it over and tore the label slightly, revealing an older expiration date hidden beneath. He raised the package high and spoke clearly, his voice cutting through the noise. "You call this fresh, Frank?" The store went silent. Heads turned. Frank froze for half a second before forcing a laugh. "Mr. Davis, let's not make a scene." But the scene had already begun. Ranger barked loudly, startling the customers. Lucas opened another package, then another. The stench hit instantly. Gasps filled the air. A mother covered her child's nose. "This is what he's selling you," Lucas said, voice steady but fierce. "Rotten food, washed in chemicals, disguised as something safe. He's poisoning this town for profit." Frank's face turned red. "You don't know what you're talking about," he shouted, lunging forward. But before he could reach Lucas, Emily's camera light blinked red. Live, within seconds, the confrontation streamed across Pinegrove's social media feeds. People began filming with their phones, surrounding the aisles as witnesses. Lucas pulled out a sealed freezer bag containing samples he had taken from the storage room. "Test it," he said, staring straight at Frank. "Then tell them I'm wrong." Panic flickered across Frank's face as murmurs spread through the crowd. He tried to grab the camera, but Ranger stepped between them, growling low, protective and unyielding. Frank backed away, stammering excuses. Emily's voice trembled slightly as she spoke into the mic. "This is Emily Carter, reporting live from Green Mart, where evidence of mass food tampering has just been exposed by retired Navy SEAL Lucas Davis." The customers cheered, some crying, some furious. A can of beans fell to the floor, rolling to Frank's feet, a sound that seemed to mark the fall of his empire. Lucas turned to the crowd, his voice soft now. "You deserve better. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Ranger sat beside him, calm and proud. The police sirens echoed in the distance, growing louder. For the first time, Pinegrove wasn't silent. It was awake. The morning after the storm of truth, Pinegrove felt like a different town. The air was clearer, the sky softer, as if even nature had taken a deep breath of relief. The story had spread faster than anyone expected. By sunrise, every radio, every phone, every local news channel carried the same headline: Green Mart Scandal Exposed. Town Saved by Veteran and His Dog. People gathered in small groups outside the diner and gas station, talking not in whispers anymore, but in voices loud and free. For the first time in years, Pinegrove wasn't living in silence. Lucas Davis stood near the edge of the lake, watching the reflection of the morning light ripple across the water. Ranger sat beside him, tail gently sweeping the grass. In the distance, he could hear the faint sound of sirens, Frank Doyle being taken away in handcuffs. The man who once owned the town's trust now rode away in disgrace, his empire of greed dismantled piece by piece. Justice, simple and unspoken, had finally arrived. Behind Lucas, footsteps approached. Emily Carter, camera in hand, smiled softly. "You did it," she said. Lucas shook his head. "No, we did it. You gave them a voice." Emily laughed lightly. "The governor's office called this morning. They're sending inspectors to clean up what's left. People want to meet you. Thank you." Lucas glanced at the quiet town across the lake, the smoke from the morning diners curling into the air. "I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because no one else could." He turned to her with a half smile. "And because he nodded toward Ranger, wouldn't let me walk away." Ranger barked once as if agreeing, his ears perking up at the sound of children laughing nearby. Across the park, a group of kids ran with a ball, their parents watching from benches. Life was returning, slowly, beautifully. Emily lowered her camera. "So, what now?" Lucas exhaled, the wind brushing his face. "There's always another place, another fight. But for now, maybe just a good cup of coffee. They walked toward the town square together. People waved, some clapped, others simply nodded in silent gratitude. A few left flowers outside the diner window where Emily had filmed the live broadcast. A sign hung on the door. Fresh start, coming soon. Lucas paused, reading it quietly. Looks like they're rebuilding, Emily said. Yeah, he replied. That's the thing about truth. It hurts first, then heals. As the sun climbed higher, painting the rooftops gold, Lucas and Ranger reached the end of Main Street. He looked down at his loyal companion. You ready to go, partner? Ranger wagged his tail, eyes bright and steady. Together they walked toward the open road, sunlight stretching before them. Behind them, Pinegrove glowed with new life, its people, its hope, and its faith in what was right, restored. The wind carried the faint sound of children laughing again, mingling with the gentle jingle of Ranger's collar. The fight was over. Peace had returned. And for a moment everything was exactly as it should be.